Hi and welcome to 8 Wonders International Women's Day series in association with Kent FA and My Club Pro. We're currently interviewing 8 incredible women who are involved in football.
Incredible they are, and now we have the opportunity to speak to Natalie Benville, who is the chair of Deal Town Football Club. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us for this 8 Wonder series on International Women's Day. First things first, what is your current role in football?
So currently I am chair of Deal Town Football Club, and I have been for nearly a year. I've been involved at Deal for 6 years, but took over as chair last year. So yeah, exciting times.
What a time to come in as chair. So what's the best thing about your role currently?
I have to say, the best thing for me is probably the family feel that you get from it. So we spend so much time together, whether it be from trying to organise the clubhouse to the facilities hire, or to actually the team and the management team and the squad. So much goes on behind the scenes that people just don't know about, and you tend to look at them as like your second family, because you spend so much time with them. You have highs and lows, and you kind of go through all of those emotions that you would do with a family. So like for me, that's the best thing that I find, really, for being involved in a club, whether it be chair or as a director.
Yeah, I think that's really true, certainly around club football, like you mentioned there. And can you tell us about a lesson that working in football, being involved in football, has really helped to teach you?
Wow, so many. But if I had to pinpoint one, it would be to have patience. Being involved in a non-league football club, for anyone that is, will understand that you really have to learn to have patience. Everyone has different priorities, whether it comes to like running the football team, to making sure that you've got burgers and tea bags ready for match day on a Saturday. And it's just having time and patience to listen to people. And as chair, that's the responsibility that you take on. You need to give time to people, and patience is a real thing that I've learned to have.
And I guess being chair, you have to have time for a lot more people. So what is one of the challenges that you face in your being a woman in particular involved in football?
For me, when the option came up to become chair of Deal Town, it was being a woman in football and the stigma that kind of brings with it. And especially with non-league football, there is that kind of generic understanding that it's always been run by men. And actually, who's to say that it can't be females that run a club or even help out in a club? And I'm in a real lucky position at Deal. There's 5 females on our board, which is unheard of in non-league football. And I think because you're all volunteers, you tend to try and bring in people that you trust and that you can kind of learn to develop the club with. And it's trying to change that stigma around what women have and the role that women have in football.
I'm so glad you made that point, Natalie, because that's the whole purpose of 8 Wonder, in terms of showcasing to young women, or women of all ages really, that there are so many different roles within football, and it doesn't really matter what your skill set is, there will be a role there waiting for you. And I think this next question, it will be so useful to know. What's the best piece of advice you've been given when it comes to being a woman working in football?
You know what? It has to be from my mum. And what better role model to have than your mum? And she basically said to me, your opinion is as valid as anybody's, whether you're male, female, a secretary, a treasurer, a chair, the management, you all have an opinion. And just because you're a woman makes it no less valid than what it would do if you were male. So I kind of stick by that. And if ever I'm having a day where I think, oh, no, actually, my opinion is valid. Just because I'm female doesn't make a difference.
Fantastic. That's a great bit of advice for anybody out there. As Charlotte said, young or old, is to have that your opinion does matter. And you've mentioned your mum, and it's International Women's Day and we are celebrating. So who is someone that you'd love to give a shout out to, who's helped and possibly supported your career so far?
Oh God, to try and pick one. Now, I promise I'll keep it to a minimum, but I'd have to pick 3. My mum would be my number one. She's my number one fan, always will be. My sister, considering she's not involved in a football club, I think she could probably run one with the amount of advice she gives me. And the final one would have to be our treasurer, who is also one of my best friends, Danielle. And without her, I would never have even considered or thought that I was capable of being chair of a football club. And look where I am now. So yeah, it has to be to those 3.
Absolutely, look where you are now. And it's brilliant that it was three female role models as well, because one of the points we like to say at Eighth Wonder is, you know, we are women involved in football, and sometimes putting another woman's name forward for things, always mentioning them when you're in those rooms, that's really important and really encouraging. So you had 3 choices there. I'm going to ask you now for 3 more choices, but around the words that you would use to describe working and being involved in football.
Oh, again, difficult, but I will go with frustrating, challenging, but absolutely rewarding.
Fantastic. And that leads quite nicely into our final question for you, which is, what is one tip that you'd give a young person or another person wanting to get involved in football?
Absolutely do it. Just keep challenging through all those barriers that you may face. Give 110%, because I would promise anybody it's absolutely worth it. It's one of the best things that I've done, and I couldn't imagine my life now without being involved in non-league football. So yeah, absolutely do it.
That's amazing. Natalie, we are so grateful for you joining us today on International Women's Day and being one of our amazing 8 case studies that we've managed to speak to around it. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, guys.
And if you've been interested in Natalie's story so far and are looking forward to the rest of the series, please make sure that you stay tuned and get involved.